You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Wednesday, May 22nd.
It's a fun day in the Gulseth household.
Why is that?
9 years of marriage.
Oh, that's right. Happy anniversary.
Thanks.
I thought you were going to say go Blues.
Go Blues! Yeah, Luther is not...
He's not a Blues fan.
I mean, he'll watch it with me, and he's excited, I think, but he's from Arkansas. He doesn't do hockey. That was probably a very broad generalization.
Doesn't get cold enough for hockey there?
Yeah, actually, well, maybe. There's teams in the South. But yeah, go Blues.
They play hockey in Tampa, so it could be cold enough in Arkansas.
It's fine. They just don't have a team. They're all about the Razorbacks, so baseball and football, that's what he's about.
It is May and National Foster Care Month, and I'm excited to talk about that today. So we have some good stories to share with you today about foster care and real-life foster parent in the studio. Excited to share that story. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. You can find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Somebody's got to say the tagline. Right? Live uncommon. Yeah, they just finished commencement, and I did see the pictures from Bethesda College graduation as well. They had just about like 7, 10, somewhere around there, graduates.
Good group.
Really exciting to see that as well.
Yeah.
It is National Foster Care Month, and no better team to help us address that than our friends from Lutheran Family and Children's Services of Missouri. Bev Schaefer in studio with us this morning, foster parent coordinator, and it comes on the Coffee Hour and other programs here on KFUO to help us learn about this stuff. Bev, thanks so much for being our guest.
Sure. Good morning, everybody.
Always love the stories you bring to share with us. And Debbie Wolf, program manager for Lutheran Family and Children Services. And Debbie, it's always a joy to have you in studio. It's been about a year since we had a chance to talk. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you very much for having us.
And Suzanne Pennycook, she's foster parent and has served as a foster parent for 30 years. Suzanne, thanks so much for coming over to share your story today.
Thank you for having me.
So what are the various types of foster care? Bev, what are I understand there are a couple of different types of foster care.
Right. At Lutheran, our major foster care is doing respite care, our pre-adoptive foster care. So we really only have children 0 to age 5. And the children that come into our foster care come because the mother is asking for help. So it's voluntary foster care. And then Debbie would be able to tell you a little bit more about Children's Division foster care, which of course is involuntary, where the children have been taken from the parents for some reason. But we do case management at Lutheran for children who are in the state system. So we have several programs going on all the time.
Debbie?
So, yes, we have a contract with the state, and we are responsible for 98 kids that have been removed from their homes. And we have case managers that are essentially their surrogate parent, and they are doing everything for them or with them. The hope is always that they are reunited with their parents, but in some cases that doesn't happen, and then the goal is to try to find them a long-term home and hopefully be adopted. And some of our kids age out and they don't have a permanent home. But back to what Bev was saying, we also have our respite, which is involuntary, and it's so needed in this community. And that is for parents who may need to go to the hospital and don't have anybody safe to watch their 2 children, or they need to go to rehab, or maybe they lost housing and they are going to go to a
Shelter.
A shelter. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Go to a shelter, but they don't want to take their little ones to the shelter. So they are looking for a safe place for their children while they take care of whatever it is they need to take care of. And I love that Lutheran and a few other agencies in the St. Louis area offer this, because in some of these cases, these kids would be eligible to go into Children's Division, and we don't want that to happen. If this is a temporary situation, we just want to help these parents and then let the kids go back to their homes.
Yeah. That's such a great thing to be able to offer these families. Are there different responsibilities or qualifications for parents for either side of fostering, or is it if you're a foster parent, you can do either of these?
Well, for Lutheran, because the children aren't in state's custody and our voluntary foster care program, we have training, which they go through a whole home study, and we go over all of the different policies and procedures of Lutheran. But if you want to become a foster parent for Children's Division, the state has very specific training called STARS training that you must take, because the foster parents for Children's Division are dealing with so many more behaviors and issues and court and therapists and doctors compared to our short-term foster care, which is normally 30 days, while Children's Division foster parents may have the children 2 years, 3 years. It can go on for a very long time. So really, as far as being foster parents, they're both licensed by the state, but what Lutheran does and what the state does is very different.
Absolutely. What are the needs for foster parents right now?
Well, for Lutheran, it sounds very specific, but our need really is for a foster family to live in St. Louis County, and if the the foster mom can be an at-home mom. And the reason for that is that because our children are only in care for such a short time, we can't get them into daycare. So if the mother does happen to work and she has her mother or a best friend or someone else who could watch the baby while she works, we can work with that. The reason why we need St. Louis County is that the Children's Service Fund helps fund us, and because it's people in St. Louis County who are paying that 1/4 of a penny sales tax, of course the fund wants us then to either have the child in St. Louis County or the mother has to be from St. Louis County. This sounds complicated, right?
And much of this process, I'm sure, sounds complicated, but LFCS has done great work to help people, to help families through this process and uncomplicate it.
We sure try.
Suzanne, let's share your story. When you first thought about being a foster parent, what were your expectations before that first child was placed into your care?
I guess I could say, in all honesty, I didn't think that far. I just thought babies, and what fun. I guess I really didn't know anything about foster care. It came to me through my church. Lutheran had put a paragraph in the bulletin looking for foster parents for newborns. And I was just sending off our youngest son, our last one in the bunch, to school that year. And I thought, well, I'll be home. And I hadn't worked at a quote-unquote real job for like 10 years. So I thought, I don't know how to do any of that stuff, but I do know how to raise children. They lived, and I, besides the bulletin, I also ran into a foster mom. You know how they say things are meant to be? I went to a baby shower for a cousin's wife. And at that baby shower was the wife's sister, who had in her arms a teeny tiny brand new baby. And so I gravitated over there and I said, "Are you by any chance a foster parent?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "Well, let me ask you a question." I said, "Who are you with?" She said, "Lutheran." And my lights started going off. And I said, "Great." I said, "I called them, but I kind of said, let me think about it," and hung up. And she said, "Call back. They need people." And at that time, I lived within the city limits of St. Louis. I'm now in St. Louis County. But she said, "They really need people in the city. Call back." And I did. And I talked to this wonderful lady. I call her the first Jan. And she said, oh, sure, call this foster mom, talk to her, find out what it's about, and see if you're still interested. I said, okay. And I did. And then the paperwork started coming, and the letters, and the, what do you call it, fingerprints, and the physicals, and all that stuff. I thought, gee, goodness gracious, I'm surprised they're going to let me have a baby. But it was really amazing. It was, I don't know, I guess it's a gene we have that babies are so innocent. They didn't have any part in whatever reason it was that they're with me. So I just loved them and took care of them the way I knew. And people said, how could you do that? How could you, once you had that baby, how could you let it go? And I said, because I never was meant to have that baby forever. I'm just a bridge, is what I always called it. I am from this point to that point. And I get as much from it as they do. I mean, if you can hold a baby, you can't really be a whole lot closer to God than that. It's a new soul. It's innocent. And it's there for a reason. So,
are you getting the tissues out, Andy?
I'm fine. You're crying.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
We have. Well, let's come back.
Yeah.
Let's finish this story.
Yeah.
And we'll be back.
Tissue break.
You're listening to Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Hi, this is Pastor Mark Azil, the LCMS Director of Campus Ministry and the Chancellor of LCMSU, inviting you to join us right here on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. in the Student Union. If you can't make it, Student Union is always available as a podcast at kfuo.org. Learn more about LCMSU at lcmsu.org. And remember, college is tough. You need Jesus. We'll help.
Wednesday afternoon at 2 on KFUO.
This is a test of the emergency alert system. This has been a test of the emergency alert system.
For Wednesday's Law and Gospel, I, Tom Baker, will be conducting a funeral service about 130 miles away. However, the repeat broadcast will still be a Bible study for those who are interested in listening as groups in churches or at homes.
Listen to Law and Gospel weekday mornings beginning at 9:30 on KFUO.
Hi, I'm Pastor Ted Lesh, pastor at Chapel of the Cross Lutheran Church in North St. Louis County, inviting you to listen to our KFUO radio worship broadcasts on Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock. Active worship, preaching, music, and singing are part of every one of our services at Chapel. Join us Sunday nights at 6. It's one more broadcast worship opportunity for you from your friends at Chapel of the Cross and KFUO Radio.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
We found one tissue.
What? Literally one in the whole studio. There's a box.
It is National Foster Care Month, and we are talking with our friends from Lutheran Family and Children's Services of Missouri. We have in studio today Bev Schaefer, she's foster parent coordinator, and Debbie Wolf, program manager, and also Suzanne Pennycook, who's been a foster parent for 30 years, and sharing with us your story today. Just what a beautiful story to get to be that bridge, to provide that love and care and nurture for a child, knowing that it's for a time, but just pouring your whole heart into it and your resources into that time that you have to care for that child. What have been the joys of being a foster parent, a foster family?
Well, just enjoying it. I guess I'm not a real sleeper type person. So
Well, that's good because
likes to have insomnia, but the kids at that time were all in grade school. Like I said, our youngest had just started kindergarten. And it was like the little brother, sister / that they didn't get. Because we used to get that, well, I want a little brother. Well, that's enough. We can only save so much for college, It's, but we would have I'll get the bottle. I'll hold the baby. I'll, do whatever it is you need. And then the longer it went, it was, I have to go. Can I do that later? Or they'd walk by the crib and look, oh, okay, bye. So, the joy was just enjoying them. Sure, you probably had a baby that had colic, or you had one that didn't want to sleep at night and
or
only
ever.
during the day. Yeah. But it was just so much fun. And it's kind of like people that walk a dog and it's a puppy. It draws a crowd. If you walk into a room with a baby, you have a crowd, and it's like you get there and you don't see the baby again until you leave a couple hours later. Oh, let me hold it. Oh, please let me hold it. So it's just, you also have another family, which I consider Lutheran, and the other foster moms. And I want to bang the drum for Bev over here a little bit. When I started, Bev was a foster mom. And she was the only other foster mom in the city of St. Louis with me, and we weren't that far. Ted Drews is between us, let's put it that way. So, and I got some of her babies when she had to go somewhere, and she got some of mine, and she knows how it is to have kids that get attached to your babies, which is not the happiest of times, but it gives you a good teaching moment with your children, that we have to love people for the time they're with us, and we have no power over what happens after they're gone, which is one thing I had to learn, to try not to think about what they were going back to or what situation, or even if it was a good situation, you'd always want to know, how are they doing? And that was totally voluntary on the either birth parents or the adoptive parents. If they wanted to keep in touch, they could. If they weren't interested, you had to abide by their wishes. But I still, to this day, if the phone rings and I see Lutheran on the ID, it's like, whoom, hello. So.
We've always said for the foster parents, the loving and letting go, that's the hardest thing, because we want our foster parents to bond with these children, even if it is for a very short time, because that's what the babies need. But it is hard to let go.
Yeah, I can only imagine. There's so much I want to talk about. So loving them while they're with you, that is such a big, important thing for both the moms and the children, just to know that they have that love. They're in such a rough situation, but just to have that community of love around them. You mentioned letting go being a hard thing. What are some of the other challenges of being a foster parent?
Heading to your child's band, concert with a baby and hoping they'll sleep through the whole thing. Having a baby in church and hoping they'll sleep through the whole thing.
Or not split up on the person in
behind you. Yeah. Oh, the challenges.
Well, I would add that since we take 0 to 5, it's a lot more than just babies. And so many of the families have 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and so that's much different than a baby. And what that 2-year-old and 4-year-old has been exposed to is much more. And the behaviors they come with, the experience that they've come with is much different. And so when a foster parent brings those kids into their home, the kids are adapting, but so is the foster family adapting to the kids and trying to make it the best that it can be. And for many of our little ones, they are getting exposed to things that they've never experienced before, going to church possibly, or going, ice skating, or it could just be anything that they've not had the opportunity to do. And a lot of things, fortunately, in St. Louis are free, but some things cost money, and some of our the biological parents just can't afford. And so going into the foster home, with all of those wonderful experiences and getting to do that, also comes the temper tantrums and the other behaviors that are challenging, because these little ones don't understand what's going on. They just know they're not with mommy, but they're not quite old enough to really get it. They have fun and they like this new place, but they don't really understand. And so that can make it challenging too, especially at bedtime when things get quiet, and then that's when they really miss mommy.
Sure.
So there are a lot of challenges.
So having patience, not just yourself, but the whole family too, having patience with that, with the child and the circumstances as well that may arise, because they're kind of unusual or extreme circumstances. Let's talk a little bit about the preparation and the training that goes into becoming a foster parent. Both the Lutheran, like the respite voluntary, as well as the training that goes into the children's division as well. Let's talk about that. Well, let's talk about some of the training that you went through. Suzanne, tell us a little bit about learning to be a foster parent.
You rely on everybody. You turn no one down if they've got offering help. We twice a year have a workshop, they call it, which I call it fellowship, because you're with all the other foster moms. But you have speakers, and you learn CPR. You learn how to get that car seat on that child, whether they want it or not,
We try to do many different types of speakers and training that will apply to our children. I mean, black hair care is a big deal. To know about how to do black hair care and child development and trauma. Most of these children have been through all types of trauma, so we have special training on that. The beginning training, I think Suzanne talked about that, as far as criminal record checks and physicals, and you have to have references, and we come out to the home several times. And so that's the licensing process. But then you have to have ongoing training that our foster parents have to have every year. So we try to have 2 workshops every year. So.
And what about the training for the children's division?
So the home study itself is very similar, but what the families are going through even prior to starting the home study is called STARS, and it is 27 hours of training. It's usually a weeknight for 3 hours at a time for 9 weeks. And it's really, really good, and it's really important to have that training, because being a foster parent for older kids is not everybody's cup of tea. And a lot of times people think that if you just love these kids, then that's all they need. Well, that isn't all they need. Like Bev said, with the trauma that they've been exposed to comes a lot of different things. And so their parents sometimes weed themselves out by going through that 27-hour training, because it really shows you what might happen. It doesn't say that, because we have kids in foster care that it's a smooth transition and they do fabulous. But for most kids, There's going to be a honeymoon period, and then there's going to be a challenging period because, again, they're trying to figure out what in the heck is going on and why am I here. And even if they're old enough to kind of understand what happened, they still want to be with their mom or their dad or their grandma, whoever was taking care of them. That's who they want to be with. And they might know that it's dangerous, but that's all they know. So they don't know the other side.
We're just about out of time. I want to share any opportunities that you have coming up to learn about or take that next step to becoming a foster parent, whether it's for the voluntary or the Children's Division. Opportunities that are coming up?
Well, they can call Lutheran anytime, and we have an intake worker, Jenny, who will gladly can steer them in either direction. So they can call 787-5100 and ask for Jenny, and she'll make sure that she gets them into training or gets whatever people connected.
314-787-5100, is that right?
That's correct. And Bev would be the one doing your home study if you decide to do the 0 to 5 kids, the respite voluntary that we have. And Bev is excellent, and she would be the one to walk you through it step by step.
Thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.